Welcome to part 2 of my Hanhart Stopwatch teardown and rebuild and attempted fix. If you haven't seen the first half of this, I'll link the first video in the top right, and you should go watch that first. Now, let's get back to the build. Now, let's get to reassembly. All those parts are washed and dried, and here we go. So, this is going to be a little trial and error because I don't really know what order it should go back together. Mostly the way that it came apart would be the thought, but we'll see how it goes. But look how shiny that is. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, it wasn't absolutely disgusting, but you know, everything looks good after you clean it. You know, car looks great for like a day, and then you drive it, and well, it's dirty, but here we go. Hopefully the stopwatch will stay clean a little longer. So we'll put that big center wheel in there, put the escape wheel on, and I'm just going to line up all of these wheels best I can, just kind of sitting on this main plate. And then what I'll have to do is take that 3/4 plate that I took off and line all of the shafts up of all of these wheels and everything that it holds down, and get them lined up at one time and pop it on. So that's the tricky bit. But right now, here we go. We'll put the mainspring barrel back on, put this minute wheel that I've sourced from another Hanhart stopwatch that I'm hoping will work. It's very similar to this one, but it's a different model, but close enough, I hope. So we'll see how that goes. And there we go. And there we are. I think the train of wheels is roughly on. Now this is very, as you can see, kind of finicky. So you have to, this is real trial and error. Just kind of persevere sort of situation, but whew, man, look at that. Clean as a whistle. So, let's hope we can line all this up. It's very, very particular, and you don't want to force anything. Forcing things is bad in watchmaking because it usually will just result in a break. So, let's see. My strategy is kind of wiggle lightly, feel it out, and ooh, did you hear that little click? Yes. Oh, look how smooth that is. Beautiful. I was also hoping, there's a lot of hope in there, and well, we got it to go pretty easy actually. I'm surprised, but at the same time not so much, but because this watch is pretty well made. I mean, it's not meant to be fancy, but it's well made. So now that screw didn't want to go in right, so we'll look at that in a second, but we'll put these other ones in, and you know what it is on that one, remember, was the long screw. Yep, that long one. It's got to make a return. I didn't remember off the top of my head. So, but the good news is that one obviously was not correct. So I could very easily see, no, that was wrong. But here we go, we'll tighten these down and we'll get that correct screw back in up there, and all will be right with the world. There we go. And I'm kind of relieved because I was worried about getting this plate on. I thought so many things having to line up, but we did it. We did it, so I'm very happy. Let's see, tighten her down, and there we go. 4 out of 5. Alright, and there's that long screw. Put him in there now. That's the one we were missing. A little special guy. So we'll put him in there, tighten him down, and then boom, we got all 5 screws in, and our back plate is back on. So that is a good feeling. Good feeling. Good way to start the rebuild. Okay, and now let's put the pallet forks back on. Yep. And again, this is a rather delicate part, so I want to be careful. Wiggle it on there. There we go. So that's sitting where it should. And now we're going to put its little bridge back on. There we go. Get it lined up. It's a little tricky because, I mean, you see how tiny that hole is? Right there. I have to line up the top shaft of that with that. And it took a bit of fiddling. It took me a minute, but I finally got there. I'll spare you the pain of watching a man poke around with tweezers for several minutes, but there we go. So it's on. Not too bad though. There we go. And now I can kind of test it. Put a little bit of force on the mainspring barrel. See how it kind of jumps back and forth on its own. That means it's working. So very good. So we'll do a little bit of lube here. Start putting the oil where it needs to go, and there's a few different types of oil I'm going to use. This one here is going to be kind of my medium viscosity oil. It's for metal and metal, but not the heaviest duty, and not what I'll lubricate the jewels and all the pivots with. That'll be a little heavier and lighter, respectively, but that's kind of the medium viscosity there on the main barrel. And sorry for my head getting in there, but I gotta get close to see with the loop. Going to put that lightest oil in there, and the jewel that you see there, and some of these other pivots. And it really doesn't take much. I mean, just enough that it covers the surface. You don't want it to be pulled up or overflowing or anything. So it's just something to collect dirt. And we don't want that. So here we go. We'll get all the, there we get that middle wheel pivot. There we go. All very, very delicate work, but got all that done. Now let's put this middle shaft in here. There we go. See, I got a little extra oil there I need to clean up, but we'll flip this back over. get this whole washer and little lock thing back on, but it's going to be a bit tricky because that's going to want to fall out the bottom, so going to have to hold that somehow while getting this side on. So there we go, put my little stick under there, and let's sped this up because it's going to take a minute for me to get it, but as you can see, I'm just pushing it back on with my hand hand press tool there, and I don't want to bend anything, so I'm being very cautious, but I'm trying my best, and it will require some force. I know that, but I don't want to mess anything up, so you see we're fiddling, give a screwdriver in there, and I kind of get it, and then I'm like, is that enough? But then I get it a little more, and I end up being happy with it, so we're moving on. So this crown wheel, go back on there, and the ratchet wheel over the mainspring barrel. Remember, this one has the square in it. It's interlock with that barrel, and actually turn it when we wind the watch. Okay. And here's our one screw that I know will be the correct one because it's that reverse threaded one, and it has those special markings on the head, so very hard to get that one wrong. So thank you for that. And lefty tighty. How it feels weird. But there we go. It's like tying your shoes left-handed or something. I don't know. It's a weird feeling, but it's how it is. Now we'll put this one on. There we go. Simple enough. And ta-da! We are screwed on. Now, in theory, we should be able to wind this, but not just yet, because we have to put that click on. And unfortunately, my camera had a bit of a moment, and I missed putting that click on. But you can see it there. Just that little thing locks the ratchet wheel to keep it from unwinding when you put a wind into the watch. So no biggie. Believe me, you didn't miss much. But now let's put this balance wheel back on. Okay, yeah, and again, being very delicate with this, so I don't want to mess up the pivots on that. So what I'll do is, I think I've got it close. I'll kind of tighten this down, and then I'll give it a little more of a wiggle and a spin, and there we go. Make sure that it's spinning freely, and I also need to make sure that the impulse jewel is engaging with the pallet forks, and it looks like it is, so very good. Now let's get some of this winding works in there so I can actually put a wind into the watch and test it. So this is it's really grease, but this is the heaviest lubricant that I'll use in this movement, and it is, like I said, essentially grease. It's actually called Molykote, but it's a watch grease for heavy metal on metal contact, which the winding mechanism here is one of the heaviest with that little clutch that goes in here with it. So I gotta get that in against this little spring. It's gonna be a bit of a job, but it just takes a little bit of coordination. So we'll put a little more grease on there. Coat it, molly coat it, and there we go. So, looking good. So we'll drop this in. I'm gonna pull that out of the way and drop it in with my other set of tweezers, and it's a bit fiddly, kind of hard, but there might be a better way to do this, but I don't know what it is, so we're doing this method. Let's see. Beautiful. Look at that. Not too bad. Not too shabby, if I do say so myself. And there we go. So we shall continue putting on these little. I still don't know what this does. I don't know what the bottom one does. The top one I can kind of assume, does a job of holding that one pivot arm down and kind of guiding it, but what does this bottom one do? I don't know. But it's there, and I'm going to put it back. So we'll get the pivot arm here. This, remember the one with the little pole, the little twig there, sticking down to start and stop the balance wheel. Well, it's time for you to go back to your home, buddy. There we go. Oh, yes. And beautiful. So we'll screw that down, and then will come the previously unknown struggle of reassembling this watch that I was not ready for and would not have guessed. But putting that top little piece on. But there you go. See how that works and engages with that balance wheel. That's a thing of beauty. So here it comes. Now we will loop this little standoff here that the ratchet wheel goes around for that pivot arm, and we'll put that on. It's a cool looking wheel. I really like this part. I don't know what it is. Just looks like something for battle bots. I don't know, but it's neat. I like these. So there we go. See, there we go. That's the action we want right there. Alright, so we'll put its thick screw on. Drop it in. So far I gotta say I'm liking this. I'm liking this movement. I thought I might get frustrated with all the parts, but a little confused maybe, but it hasn't been too bad. Now, I have to confess I have been looking at the video of my disassembly to help me go back and put it back together, but I mean, it's really not too bad. There we go. Let's just make sure everything's tight. And I just realized, actually I need to take this back off because there's a problem. I didn't lube it. Yep. That thing's going to slide back and forth on that screw head, and it needs some lube there. Otherwise you could get some wear, get little tiny shards of metal all in your movement, and that's not good. That just accelerates other wear issues, and you just don't want that. So there we go. No harm, no foul. We're rolling on. At least I realized it now. Not like after I got it completely back together. And there we go. So, ta-da! Beautiful. Now it's time for the part that this really, in real life, y'all, no joke, took me a half an hour. But I'm not going to show you all that because that would, I mean, this video is already going to be long enough. So this was like my millionth attempt, it felt like, at getting this little thing on here and screwing both of them down at the same time. So very delicately trying to line up the hole in both these pieces, and oh my gosh, I can't tell you how happy I was when that screw went in. That was, I mean, that was a rush. So now I'm breathing a little easier, because I tell you, it's been a fight with this thing at this point to get that little piece on there. But we'll put the second one in, no problem there. Oh, goodness, there we go. Now let's see if we can get the little clutch in up here, clutch wheel. There we go. That was easy. Let's pull that little spring back and she goes. Now I'm really going to kind of put the winding stem in to make that line up perfectly, but I mean, it's pretty close. So let's see, here we go. Let's now start to work on a few of these other parts here. Here's this, one of these funny little springs that is used for this wheel for the start stop. I really don't know what to call those funny looking blade wheels. I guess they're yeah, I guess you can call it a wheel, but the spring's kind of jumpy. Get this little screw in there. There we go. Luckily it's not under the sort of tension that it really has a risk of flying away, because in a more typical watch movement, I know that, you know, there's like yoke spring and stuff, but they can really fly on you. But I'm still going to try and hold it down with my little stick here while I put the hole in with the tweezers, or put the end of it in that hole on the main plate, but it doesn't really want to go down in there. So I might have to loosen it back up and get it lined up better, I guess. I don't know, it's just being a little difficult. There we go. So go ahead, tighten her down. And there we are, another part reinstalled. Let's put this other one on for the split time pusher over here, with my favorite word, the Rattrapant hand. I love that. It's a good word to make you really sound like you know what you're talking about when it's, you know, basically just as a split time. But hey, you don't have to tell anybody. Just say Rattrapant and be fancy. So here we go. Now, this is going to be, I'm not really sure what the best procedure for getting this in is with that wheel, so I'm just hoping right here we'll see what it actually ends up being. I'm guessing I'll have to loosen it again, but we'll come back to that in a minute. Right now, let's put this main pusher part on here. It's close. It's very close. Remember, taking it out, it wasn't super simple, but there we go. Just had to get it. Yeah. Because that little cover down there on the bottom of it, that is not screwed on. That's welded or kind of pinched, like it's fixed to the main plate. So there we go. So that works. Comes back up and we'll go again. So that's good. So we get the screw on there to hold that down. And it's interesting to see the screws on here that in this movement that really tighten down on something and hold it absolutely still versus the ones that screw down to keep things from falling off but allow them to move, like this one. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see. So I like, it's one of the reasons I like mechanical watches and why I wanted to start working on them, because some really neat machining and mechanical design going on in them that you just don't see, everywhere or just anywhere. It's a little more specialized, and I think that's cool. So I am going to have to loosen this up. I'm not going to be able to get that on because I have to hold that wheel. See, that's too stiff. I can't push that sideways and get the screw started in the middle of that little wheel. So we're going to have to figure out how to do this. There we go. So we get the wheel in first. That's, I'm guessing, what you're supposed to do. So, very short little screw. Kind of hard to get them sat up there, but looks like we got it. Oh yeah, make sure it's, yeah, there we go. Make sure it's threaded good, not cross-threaded, and beautiful. Okay, so now the trick's going to be getting this other screw into this when it's, covering up that hole slightly. So what I might have to do is put it actually on top kind of that wheel, get the screw started, move the spring over, and then kind of let it snap down in position from there, because see, there's not enough play here. It doesn't move enough. So let's see if I can do a little bit of magic here, a little bit of wiggle room magic, and maybe put this. Yeah, that trick isn't going to work. Oh boy. See, and this is, I decided to include this struggle because I could edit this together so it looks like I just, you know, one shot wonder, got everything back together. But the truth is that's not, it's really not how it goes. So, especially with me being brand new at this, like I said, I have no training or nothing. I've watched a few other videos of people working on watches, and I thought, oh, that'd be cool to do. So I like watches, and I like to work on things. So this will be fun, and it is fun. But I have no training. I'm winging it. So I decided to include a little bit of the struggle here and there, so that it's representative of what actually happened. Uh, keep it real. That's what I want to do. Just keep it real, man. There we go. Ah, beautiful. And we got it. Now, let's get a little bit more of that grease on here. Put on this little wheel, because that is going to be quite a rough interaction between those two metal pieces. So we need some good lubricant there. And that grease is the stuff. But we'll just get it on. Get a little bit kind of everywhere there, and as we use it, cycle it around, it'll smear and spread. So that's good. And now let's get this little pusher piece on there. So put a little bit of grease under that, because this is one of those deals where like I was saying, the screw doesn't really tighten down to where the thing won't move. See, that's too tight. But there's a happy medium here where it holds it down, but it allows it to slide. So we'll have to find that happy medium. But getting the spring on is going to be interesting. Yeah, problem solving skills are going to have to come into play here, because I need to get it on that back there. There we go. And then get it on this post without it coming off that one. Yeah, this is another one of those little kind of, how the heck do you do that moments. So just gonna try again. Easy, steady, steady. Oh my goodness, look at that. Hanging on by a thread back there. So I need to push that up, because that'll definitely fall off. After all, this is a stopwatch. It's meant to be used for like sporting events and stuff, so I mean, it's going to be in your pocket getting jostled around. Definitely needs to be on better than that, so let me try and push it up. There we go. I think there's a little notch on there that it kind of sits in. Yeah, I know there's one on the pin there on the main plate, but ooh yeah, there we go. Looking good. That's what I'm talking about. Now we just got to figure out this happy medium. And there we go. Moving on to another wacky looking little spring. This is for the main start-stop function. pushing down the crown. So it goes there, and then there's another screw that holds it back to put it under tension, and it goes on that long pusher piece that we put in earlier. You know, you remember, just like the way it looked when I took it apart. Yeah, that's how it goes back together. Makes sense. So, there we go. And then put this little bridge back on here. Yeah. See, now this one's interesting because it kind of goes over that spring up there, the start-stop spring, and the screw goes through there. But you can't be too close. Like, you don't want it pinching on that spring so that it doesn't move. There's kind of a cutout under there, up here, see? So I need to, here we go. Now we can put the screw in. It wasn't seating very well, but now I got it. That's beautiful. So there we go. We'll screw that down and screw the other one down, and then we can put that spring back on, and we should be all sunshine and rainbows on that, and everything will be good. Will be good in the world. Let's see. Now, geez, that's a long way. There we go. Yeah, beautiful. Just like they intended, I'm sure. Tighten her down. Tighten this down real good. Yep. Okay. Here we go. A little more grease. Because there's a lot of moving parts in this thing. This one's not too bad because it's just the reset lever, but still, it's metal on metal rubbing. You don't want that to go unlubed. So, grease away. Put some on the top as well. Go under where the screw head will be. And there we go. Wonderful. And you know, I don't know what made me put this together, but that little reset lever, it doesn't, I'm not saying it looks like it, but does it not remind you of the Peugeot, like, car company logo? I'm a car guy, so I don't know, I've always got car on the brain, and just the way that those are shaped kind of look like that, lion on there. Thought that was kind of funny, but anyway, maybe it's just me. Let's see. Now this is part of the minute hand situation that was broken previously, so I'm hoping this will fix it. We'll find out. But this is the little reset cam piece that was stuck to the previous minute hand. We're just gonna try and pop it on the, there we go. Beautiful. Pop that on the shaft there and see when When this comes down, boom, it resets everything, and wonderful. Now we won't really know if that works till we get it all back together, but you know, you gotta throw it on there and hope sometimes, and we'll find out later. So here we go. Here's the fun little uh, wheel with the Repair-Hanhart hand. You know how much I love saying that word, Repair-Hanhart. Anyway, it goes on like that, and it actually has a pretty nifty little mechanism on the bottom of it that causes it to snap back with the actual full-time running seconds hand. So pretty cool how they did that. Now we'll put this little bridge back over it, holds it in place pretty easy. Okay, second screw on it, and wonderful. You gotta love it. You gotta love it when things just go together. Now, let's see. Once they're tight, now we're getting toward the end. Now I'm going to take these little pincher arms for the split time Repair-Hanhart hand and kind of pre-assemble them in their little spring and orientation. And I really like. Sorry, that was gibberish. Blah, 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 blah. I really like the mechanism here for this. It's pretty cool. You get one push, and it opens both of these little pincher arms at the same time. It's again a pretty simple thing, really, when you look at it, but to design it from scratch and make it and put it on a watch, like, takes some good thinking, some good know-how, and actually execute the idea. It's pretty cool. Like, mechanical watches, especially chronographs, and like this is essentially a chronograph watch, right? It doesn't tell the time going on and on throughout the day. It just tells you, the chronograph part, stopwatch, elapsed time, but it's amazing. You think about what's happening. It's pretty dang sweet. But let's see. We're gonna have one in first, and then because it's under some tension from that spring, we'll have to put one on and then the other. But I just remembered before I do that, need a little bit of grease. That's right. More metal and metal, more grease. There's a lot of stuff to lube on this movement. It's got a lot of parts. Again, this is my first movement that I'm working on, really, like my first real movement. I messed around with a couple of those really cheap kind of 2-plate, not meant to be serviced movements. I don't count that because it was nothing like working on this. So this is really my first proper movement I'm working on, and yeah, I picked a doozy. I was like, stopwatch doesn't even tell the time. How hard can it be? Well, turns out there's a lot of parts. So it can be a little bit difficult, But I think next we'll just do like a three-hand, nothing fancy. Maybe pocket watch. That sounds good. Keep it simple. And there we go. So the first one's in. Now let's get this other one lined up, and I guess I can just do this and get it started, and then kind of position them, and then get them actually where they're supposed to be. Now, of course, I'm not going to tighten this all the way down because it's wrong where it's at right now. So let's do this. Put this spring up where it goes up here. Ha. Pull this. Oh, darn it. Really? Welp. Looks like it's going to be one of those times where I just have to take it off. There we go. So I just took that screw back off, moved it, put it back on. Again, not all the way, but looks pretty good. I think that's going to do it. So now we can tighten it down. Beautiful. And nice. Now when we hit this, look at that. They open up and they snap back shut. Not a lot of movement, but just enough to start and stop that hand. So sweet. I was actually kind of worried about that, but that went a little smoother than I thought. And here we go. Get this screw in, and that was another one. That little screw there, boy, that thing did not want to go and line up with its hole. I don't know why, but that took me a while. And you saw the moment I finally got it. But again, I don't want to bore you with me wrestling a screw that weighs like, who knows, a tenth of a gram or something. I don't know. But there we go. It's just a little post for that spring to go on. Beautiful. And yeah, don't quote me on that weight. I have no idea. It's a very tiny screw is my point. It's just, it's so light. And look at that. Yes. And I'm sure I'll get better at that, right? Like, I'm just kind of ham-fisting around here on this one, so trying to hone those fine motor skills is going to be a process. But here we go. We got both of them in, and now we can put the spring on. Yes. Ooh. Feels good. Feels good when you finally get it. Now, let's start this puppy. Okay. Ooh. Interesting. So you see down there in the bottom right, the balance wheel starts and then it stops. Here it is running with the split time open, but when I stopped it, it wouldn't run. So what's the deal? What gives? It should keep running, but remember I said there's a cool mechanism on the bottom of that? Well, it's a little spring that has to line up just so on that cam, and I finally figured out how to put it on. I just didn't have it on right. So you saw when I dropped it back on, it kind of spun a little. That was it seating in the right position. So now it is correct. And now I can put this back on because, like I said, in watchmaking, if you do something wrong, there's nothing you can do except take it apart and put it back together. So, patience. can't get flustered with a watch. At least not when you're trying to put it back together. You could get flustered with it, I guess, any other time, and chuck it, and then it would be broken, and then you'd have to take it apart and fix it. So you'd still have to have patience. So, gotta be patient with watches. Here we go, and now we'll test it. Aye, it stopped again. So what's happening? I thought it was right, but let's take a closer look. So this little thing is on this tiny little spring. And you see how it's past where the shaft goes through. It needs to be like that. So it can press on that little cam piece on top of that center shaft that the other second hand's on. So trying to get that on and then move that is going to be interesting. So sorry this is blurry and kind of hard to see, but ooh, there we go. So see, I thought last time it spun around it was correct, but this time I really think I got it. So third attempt, and again, sorry for the blurriness, but I'm looking at it real closely and I believe I got it. So third time's the charm, as the saying goes. Seems to be true here. Let's put it together one more time. Here we go. Okay, couple little screws. Oh, we're getting our practice in with the little screws, huh? So, here we go. Look at that. Let's see. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. Just fall. Don't you want to go in your home, little screw? Oh, gosh. See, this is the sort of stuff that y'all missed with the other one that I was talking about. Riveting, huh? Imagine 10 minutes of that. That's entertainment. Okay, now put it on. Here we go. Very, very delicately. Good. Good. Alright. One more. Drop it in. Tiny screw. Going in for the third, fifth, 100th time it seems. And, yes. Okay. Let's drive that puppy home. And now we can test it and hope that our moment of truth is a moment of celebration. Alright. Hold your breath. Here we go. Wind. Okay. It's running, but it's not, our split time's not engaged. So here we go. Let's do it. Okay. And, aha. It is still running. Look at that. Stops. Oh, it keeps going. That is a beautiful thing. Well, gosh darn it, I think we cracked it. Look at there. Looky there. Lovely. I gotta tell you that was very relieving. Definitely made me happy. You can be assured behind the camera there was a smile right there. So now it's time to get this whole thing back home in the case and protected and ready to go out and time those poor children's mile times. Alright, here we go. That doesn't... These screws are pretty funny. Like, if you look, they just have part of the head just kind of chopped off so you can get the movement out, and then you tighten it, and there you go, and then it's it's covering enough of it that it holds it in. So there we go. This one doesn't seem to want to go far enough, but I guess that works. Okay, and here's the dial. Still looking pretty good, honestly. And I don't know if I mentioned, this is from the 80s, I believe, like mid or late 80s. This particular stopwatch. So, kind of old, kind of not, considering some watches that I have my eye on about getting and working on. So anyway, it's in good shape. Looks great. Worst part really is the crystal, and we'll get to that in a minute. But these are probably the smallest screws on the whole thing. These dial screws, my goodness, they are small, but strangely enough, did not give me as much trouble as a couple of those others. Okay, dropped that one. Yeah, I don't know that Breguet is going to hire me as a watchmaker just yet, but you know, you gotta start somewhere. There we go. Go dropping screws on one of those guilloche dials that some guy took a week to make. Whew, man, can you imagine how mad he'd be? Probably wouldn't even eat lunch with you anymore. So, if you messed up that dial. But this one's, it's tough. It's a tough old bird. It can take a tiny screw the size of a speck of dust, hitting it. And you know what? There we go. Through all my pain, the dial is on. Alright, and next we're going to go ahead and get those hands back on here. So we'll put this red split time, and you know it's coming, Repair-Hanhart hand back on first. And we'll have to get these lined up pretty good, because I mean, we're trying to keep precise time here, and we can't have things starting at a tenth of a second as opposed to 0. That's silly. So, but first, you know what? Let's go ahead, and I realize I need to put the minute hand on first, because the other two will cover it up. So let's get that on. Now, this is an unknown. This is a salvaged, stolen from another Hanhart stopwatch of similar but not identical nature minute hand, so it may or may not work. We just, we're rolling the dice here. So there we go. Get this puppy on. Get my hand tool. Press it on. Hard enough, but not too hard. And now for the main second hand, goes on like so. Yep, it's touchy. It's very touchy. It doesn't really want to balance. There we go. But I need to get it at 0. Huh. I tell you what. What if I just... There we are. Look at that. That's it. That's pretty dang close. Now, slide this on, and see that screw up there just above the 30 mark. That's that little locking screw for the winding stem slash crown, I guess you can call it on this watch. And there we go. Oh, it runs. Look at that. Beautiful. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look like that minute hand was moving, but you know we need to take a break from that. Let's look at this bezel and really the cover, because the front bezel and crystal and everything has this O-ring in it, and that's where this watch is really sealed up. There's no case back or anything. So let's take this out. And I mean, this gasket looks good. I mean, I'm going to reuse this. I'm going to clean it off and re-lube it, you know, a little bit of silicone grease. But take my pegwood stick here, and we're just going to try and scrub off a bit of dirt, and we'll speed it up here because you know how exciting is scrubbing dirt. But there we go. Now I'm gonna zoom in here and maybe you can see it's a little better. See all that stuff on my workbench area? That's pretty crusty, kind of gross. But look, yeah, we got dirt down in there, and honestly, it could be way worse. But it's in need of a clean for sure. So we're going to scrape a bunch of it off here, then I'll throw this through the ultrasonic cleaner as well real quick. And ooh, yeah, look at that. that's lovely. That's lovely. That's a little buildup of dirt. But there we go. Sweep it away, out of sight, out of mind, and that isn't too bad. But we'll clean it up real quick in the ultrasonic, and here we go. Through the magic of editing, it's back, and look, I'm gonna put this poly watch on here and try and take some of these finer scratches out of it, but I know it's not gonna make it look amazing. Another tool I don't have yet is a crystal removal tool, so not gonna be replacing the crystal in this. Also, my wife was like, I don't really care, you don't need to do that, you can see it. I'm like, yeah, but it would look better. But fine, I don't have the tool, so we'll just scrub it. We'll just poly watch it. No big deal. We'll make it look a little better. I mean, we're not going to take that giant crack out of it, but there we go. Just buff it out a bit. And we have a better looking crystal than we did. And now we'll put the O-ring gasket back in there, and here's my special little grease sponge thing for gaskets. Pretty neat, just kind of put it in there, give it a wiggle, and there you go. You've got a newly greased gasket. And that just helps protect it so it doesn't dry out. Helps a little bit with water proofness, but not that this one's very waterproof with that big crack in it. But there we go, we'll just sit it in, maybe. There we go, and now all we gotta do is snap it back on. Now let's get that thing on. So here we go, I'm gonna just, there's not really much to line up, but try and pop it on. There we go, it's kind of on, and if I just put it, there we go, maybe, just squeeze it, and, oh, dang it, did you see that? Well, I guess that minute hand's not gonna work. Darn, really thought I might have had it, but doesn't seem like it, so I'm gonna have to pop this back off, get my case knife, and there we go. Take this bezel back off. So I was hoping that would work. I wasn't sure, and as you can see, it didn't. Also, that was on pretty tight, and I think I need to get a better case knife. But okay, so what do we do? Well, we can try and put it back on. I know I didn't press it on really hard, so I think I'll try that. See, let's put that away for a minute. Now, I gotta take these other hands off to put that one back on, I believe. That all works fine, but I'm watching the little cam in there that sits on, and it turns. It's just the hand doesn't turn. So, what's the deal? I don't know. Let's try it. Let's see. Well, we're gonna push it back on. Maybe I didn't have it pressed on hard enough and it was slipping. But that's what I'm thinking since it popped off. So we're gonna push it on a little harder, a little further this time. There we go. It's on. Let's reset. Ooh, and go. And darn. Nope, it's not moving. So, what do we do? Well, I don't know there's much we can do. Unfortunately, it's a part from a different movement, albeit from the same manufacturer, but not the exact replacement. And I looked, I couldn't find just a replacement hand. So the only other option was to buy a working example of this exact same stopwatch, pretty much, and rob the parts off of that. But that was not cheap, not super expensive for this watch, but I mean, a couple $100 for a minute hand, it just didn't seem worth it. So now I'm discovering that I think it's on too tight. Turns out, I looked at this later off camera, the height of essentially I'll call it the throat of that minute hand is different on this hand here than the one that was on it before. So my thinking is it doesn't engage properly with the the shaft down there without pressing it too far. So if I press it far enough that it engages, it's tight on the dial, like it's pressed too far down, and there's nothing I can really do about it. So I don't know. We'll just have to keep an eye out and see if I can find the part or another movement that isn't going to cost $200. But anywho, at this point I'm just desperate. I'm just trying just everything I can to get it to work, and all different levels of on or not. So yeah, it's not doing anything. But so it goes sometimes. So it goes. So that's where it currently sits. I left it there. I don't have another minute hand for it. I will continue the search, but like I said, it's not a necessity. It's just kind of a cool thing that my wife has, but I consider it a win. I mean, it was my first movement. I took it apart, I cleaned it, serviced it, put it back together, and it works. It's just I need the correct part. So anyway, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.